All right. Welcome again to another episode of The Balanced Business Dad. I'm your host, Coach Dustin, here in the studio live, and I'm super excited about it. But real quick, I want to tell you guys about a book. I think I mentioned it last time that I was reading, but there's always, these nuggets that come in. And today I'm reading The Comfort Crisis, and it really talks about forest bathing, which actually comes from Japan, but 20 minutes, 3 times a day out in nature. No cell phone, no communications, completely unplugged, how it lowers the stress hormone, how it lowers anxiety, and all this amazing stuff. So I know it's something that we're going to put into our family and how we can use that because, nature is what God gave us, right? So let's go out and use it. So always want to share a tip, what I get from it. But now, why we're here. We have a guest in studio, as the people who are watching can see. This guy, it's kind of funny because our paths are very parallel and have only crossed a few times, but we've kind of been on the same path in real estate, in life, in leaving corporate America around the same time. So yeah, it's cool. So guys, welcome to the studio. David O is how everybody talks to what his name is, but
what's up?
What's going on, man? How are you?
What's happening, Dustin? Glad to be on, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I am super excited about this because you're in our backyard. So I always love bringing people in that we can have a conversation with, but you are an example of a balanced business dad, right? You focus on your faith, and I'm going to get to that because I have a story about you mentioning that, but you focus on your health. You have a marriage. Our wives actually work together in some aspects. Of course, you're a father. You run a very, very successful business, and you got friends too, right? So that's the definition of a balanced business dad. But I'm going to let you take it away and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So like you said, first and foremost, follower of Christ,
Yes.
A husband, I'm a father. And then you get into the professional stuff. I'm an agent and a real estate investor. I run a team of agents that help people invest in real estate at a group called Cashflow Nation under eXp Realty that we're super excited about.
Yeah. And that's been taking off. I see you guys all the time now.
Yeah. We're adding agents. It seems like every week, and it's been a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So let's back up a little bit and tell us about the story, how you went into entrepreneurship, which I know started with real estate, but that path, I always am curious about that journey.
Right. Yeah. No, similar to you. It's crazy when we talk about our stories, like how we didn't bump into each other. But yeah, like most people, told to go to college and get a job working for somebody else. Didn't know anything different. Never had any entrepreneurs in my family. Nobody that invested in real estate in my family. That was risky stuff. So I got a degree in computer science at Mizzou. Went on to Webster to get my MBA. I'm climbing the corporate ladder. I worked at a large corporation here in St. Louis for 12 years, which I think you also worked for the same.
I worked through a subsidiary of that same corporation. Yes.
Just climbing the corporate ladder, and I got totally burned out. Just working for the next paycheck. My wife and I did the thing that most people did, is when you got a raise in your job, you went out and bought nicer things. So we ended up buying new vehicles. We bought a bigger house. We bought a lake house. We bought a boat. We bought a jet ski. But, we didn't pay cash for any of this stuff.
Well, why would you?
We financed it all. And so at the end of the day, I think I'm making this great money, but my paycheck comes in, it gets spent that very same day on all these payments. And I've got a job. I'm just over broke, right, Dustin? And I have no retirement in sight, no freedom in sight. I hate my job. I hate all the emails I get. I hate all the conference calls I have to get on. And they've got this internal chat messenger that's just dinging all day long. And I'm in 100 different group chat messages. And I'm just pulling my hair out. And I said, I got to make a change. Something has to change. And that day I was sitting in my cubicle. It was November in St. Louis. I was in, I go into work from 8 to 5, an hour lunch built in there. And so it was dark when I went in. It was dark when I got out. It was just so miserable.
Remember those days?
But, I would sit in my cubicle, listen to a podcast on fantasy football or fantasy sports, whatever it was. And that day I just decided, hey, maybe there's something about real estate or maybe investing. And I found tons of podcasts on there and just started downloading that information into my head until finally, like after a year of all this research and knowledge, I knew enough to be dangerous and go out and mess everything up on my first deal. So that's kind of how I got into this whole thing.
Nice. So let's talk about, well, first of all, there was a lot of hate at that job.
Yeah.
I hate this. I hate this.
Yeah.
I hate this.
Yep.
So, but that journey to going out and doing the first deal, but the journey, because you and your wife were married at the time, correct? Yeah. So she was a part of that journey. So how was the support system? How did you say, hey, this job that has got us just over broke, but all these nice things, I don't want that anymore.
Right.
How did that work out?
Well, I mean, when I first started talking about this idea of investing in real estate, it freaked her out, right? And it's like, that's too risky. We're not going to gamble on the real estate market and all this stuff. And, but then after a year of me talking about it, she was like, why don't you go out and take some action? Like, why not, every night you come home and you talk about all these guys on the podcast that you listen to that are investing in real estate and they got financial freedom and all this stuff. Yeah. Why don't you go buy one house? And, that's when it turned and I was like, okay, I got to go buy a house. Let's go put this into play. I've got, I think she was just kind of sick of me.
Put your money where your mouth is,
broken
big guy.
record over and over again. And that's where we did. And it was a very scary experience. So I had my real estate license on the side. Mm-hmm. I was, funny enough, we started at the same brokerage, didn't know each other. But another friend that I worked with was helping his family on the side. So little extra fun money. If I knew of a family member that was moving, I could be a real estate agent. Yeah. That's the only purpose of it. I never in a million years thought I'd be a full-time real estate agent. But knowing that I had my license, I didn't need anybody to help me buy this first deal. So I literally had nobody advising me, no mentor, no coach, nothing. Went into the first deal thinking I could, fix this place up with a $20,000 renovation. No problem. The wholesaler even said, it's probably $15,000, $20,000. I built a little pad in there, say, 20%, $25,000 just to be safe. And, 6 months into this deal, we literally spent every dollar in our savings account. We had $100,000 in our savings account. All of it was in this property. Holy smokes. I was losing sleep at night. My wife was going to kill me. We're like, if the next thing goes wrong, I don't know how we're going to pay for it. Knock on wood, joined a mastermind, got a coach, got somebody to help me. They helped me get rid of this thing. I lost thousands of dollars, but I got a lot of my capital back. We put money back in the savings account and, knock on wood, didn't lose money on a deal since that first one, but it all came from getting the help and the mentorship and the coaching and somebody to show me what not to do and how to do things the right way.
I love that. Yeah. And you don't have to go over numbers, but was the money you lost in that first deal cheaper than your MBA?
I lost about $7,000 in the first deal.
I'm going to say it was cheaper than a course in one class.
Yeah, yes.
And I bet you learned more.
Yes.
And I have an MBA too, right? But
right. And my work paid for my MBA. So I didn't.
Okay. So well, that makes it even better, right? I did guess they did have some tuition reimbursement there.
They did.
But it's so funny. The mistakes we have in life are our best teachers, right? It's the best education we can have. And that's proof of that. The mistakes I've made or still make in real estate have still been cheaper than my MBA. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. What an inspiring story. I know we have a lot of dads out there that are listening that want to become business dads. They might not be there. They're running the side hustle and they do that. And you took the leap. I love how your wife supported you in that. Was that as easy of that conversation as you made it sound like, or was there a lot of talking into, or was she just, hey, had the faith in you?
It was literally a year of like me telling her all these great ideas. And then slowly but surely it got to the point where, well, why don't you go out and do it? You're talking about it. And
nice. I love that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the present, because now you run a pretty large team. You have 3 kids. The wife. You also invest. Your wife's in the business with you, and plus, your faith and your health. Are you still on 75 hard? Did you make it?
I'm not on 75.
Okay. All good. We'll get into that. But how do you keep it all? I mean, what are you doing right now to making sure everything works?
That's a great question. And only something that I really has made huge progress in recently.
Yeah.
So we talk about balancing all these things. And there's this book, I'm sure you've read it, The One Thing.
Mm-hmm.
They've got this amazing quote in there that says, people don't decide their futures, they decide their habits.
Yeah.
And their habits decide their futures.
Yeah.
People don't decide their futures, they decide their habits decide their futures. And so we think about this balancing act that we have to do with all these things. Well, we need to make it a habit of our lives to spend time in our marriage, spend time with our children, do all those things so that we have those relationships. We have those 10 out of 10 relationships with our spouse and our kids. And we do have a 10 out of 10 business and 10 out of 10 in faith and all that stuff. And so one of the things we had one of the same coaches I know in business. And one of the things he taught me was laying out a weekly calendar and like time blocking it. And so I love this idea, and that's how I set up my week today. Is it's pretty much the same week for me every week.
Sure.
Because I try to build in all these blocks that make sure that I don't have to balance all these things that we're talking about. It's already planned into my calendar. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm putting all of my faith stuff in there first. I'm putting my church on Sunday. I've got 2 Bible studies that I do, and I've got a men's group. Those 4 things go on the calendar before everything else. Then I've got all my family time, right? So I've got, weekend with the kids. I've got breakfast in the morning, dinner at night. I've got date night with the wife on Fridays. And then I'm putting in fun stuff I like to do, and exercise stuff. So I'm putting in the gym, I'm putting in working out, I'm putting in pickleball and golf and other things I like to do that's active and getting out there. And then it's like whatever's left. Now I'm going to, because thankfully we own our own business. We can kind of create our own schedules. Yeah. Now I'm putting in my work meetings and appointments and stuff like that in there as well. And so I know where I'm supposed to be depending on what time of day and what day of week it is. Yeah. So like when I'm home at night at family dinner, I don't have to be worried about checking my phone because a customer or an agent's calling me. Like this next couple hours is family time for me. Gotcha. And so I'm going to pick back up the phone at 9 o'clock the next morning when I'm back in my working hours, back in my working block. And that has been just a game changer for me. It wasn't always like that. Yeah. Right. And it was like, I was trying to grow the business so fast that I was stealing time from my kids and my wife, checking messages and getting stuff done on the weekend and doing contracts and stuff like that. So great question.
So now that you've made that change, while you were going through that change, was it hard to let that sit until the morning?
What I found is I can't look at it. Right?
Okay.
So if I peeked at a message, and I saw that there was something somebody was asking, and I was like, "Oh, I got it." That would be on my head.
Yes.
And then I'd have to take care of it that night.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like if I put it out of sight, out of mind. If I didn't preview messages and stuff like that, and that's what I try to do today. I try to only look at my texts when I'm responding to them. I try to only read my email when I'm at my computer, because a lot of times the email wants some file that I have to attach and I can't do it on my phone. So I only do email at my computer now when I'm sitting there responding to emails. Because like if I preview an email on my phone, then all I can think about is like, oh, I got to respond to this email, and it distracts me from anything else that I might be doing.
I like it. It's a major discipline.
Yeah.
So I could never, it's one of those things I need to work on, but letting a text go unread immediately, which I probably need to do that. I shouldn't look at the text unless I can respond right now. And I'm really bad at that. Like I got to know what it says, and then I'll come back to it or forget it. And then, all hell's breaking loose. So,
it still happens to me. I'm not perfect. So like on the way over here, for instance, I was trying to play music on my phone, and you know how it drops down with a little preview. It's this guy that just closed 10 properties with us last week says, "Hey, I need proof of sale." And so I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do that right now. But then I'm going into this interview. I had a few minutes in the parking lot. I was like, I got to get rid of this. I got to get this off of my mind. Yeah. And so I just sent him the proof of the sale, and I was like, but that was a perfect example of like, that stuff comes up. So,
that's awesome. So I love how you lay out the schedule and put the important things in there. And something that you mentioned a couple times is faith. And I don't know if you realize, I don't even know if we've had a conversation about it, but you your faith journey. You posted something, I don't know, this could be 6 months or it could be a year ago or it could have been last month. I don't know when, but you mentioned the book Two Chairs that really had a pretty profound, on your life and your faith journey. Would love for you to tell that story, what that book did to you and kind of your faith journey.
Yeah, that's a great book.
Yeah,
that was maybe a year ago or so.
Okay. Yeah.
That I found that book, and the basic premise of the book is basically spending time with God in the morning and spending time silent. And so like something that I always wanted to do was I always wanted to meditate and, in the personal development space and talk about meditation, how powerful it is, all this stuff. I could never get myself to do it. And I didn't see the point of doing it. And then this book, Two Chairs, it's more of just a time to listen for God and listen to the Holy Spirit. And that is so powerful. Like when you can get those, and it doesn't happen to me every time, but when I can sit there and I can say a prayer and ask him to speak into me today, and I can just be silent for the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes, like you'll get a lot of times something that you needed. Maybe it was one thought or one thing that you need to focus on that day. And it's like, it was placed there by God and it was him communicating to you. And sometimes you can't get those opportunities unless you're quiet and you can listen and you can clear your head. It's just a great way to reset in the morning.
It's an absolute great book. And for those guys who have Audible, I think it's a free download on Audible. I think
it's a free book.
Yeah.
You don't even have to go out and buy it.
Yeah.
It's a free Audible.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You got to download it. You got to listen to it.
We should try to get him on the show because it's a good book.
That would be cool.
Yeah. So that's awesome. I love the idea of the faith and how important it is in your life, the family time, the kids. What's new and exciting for you right now? Like, what are you guys working on right now? Obviously, you got the team and things like that, but are there any projects or anything like that you're working on currently?
Yeah, I mean, we're just really excited about growing at EXP Realty.
For sure.
The future is just so bright, and kind of the niche that we picked out, just helping investors. Yeah, it's such a passionate project for me because when I was in the corporate world, the investments that were available to me were bad, man. They're just, 401ks, it's Wall Street, it's stocks, it's bonds, it's mutual funds. It's like all this stuff that takes 40 years to retire. Like it's not good. And so I think Americans are just desperate for a vehicle in real estate and making it accessible to the normal person. And that's what we do as agents is we can help that average American buy their first real estate investment, and they don't have to go out and sign up for a $50,000 coaching program or a Robert Kiyosaki seminar. Right. They can just hire us as an agent and we can walk them through the steps, and it's really simple. That's awesome. And it's just something that I'm really passionate about, and spreading the word and getting more people to invest in real estate because I believe it's the best investment vehicle in the world. Yeah.
So I do as well, obviously. You mentioned it a couple times about coaching, personal development masterminds. So tell us about that journey of, getting a coach or going into masterminds and what it's done for you and your family and your life, et cetera.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is before, I was just like anybody else. Before I got into coaching or personal development or masterminds or anything like that, the thought of paying somebody thousands of dollars was just outrageous, right? It wasn't until I was like losing thousands of dollars on my first deal and literally so desperate, I didn't even have the money anymore to pay for the coaching. I had to go to one of those promotional credit cards where they give you no payments for 6 months. Yeah. And I freaking swiped $7,000 on that. And I'm like just praying that this is going to work out, that the coaching is going to pay for itself over the next 6 months. And thankfully it did. Yeah. And within 2 months, I did a wholesale deal and made $8,000 and nice. I paid it back. I was like, wow, this is actually works. Yes. But yeah, since that moment in time, like I've invested easily over 6 figures into coaching and events and masterminds. And they're just going to be a part of my career until the end of time. Yeah. Like you have to have the peer group. You have to have the accountability. You have to have somebody else that intimately knows what you're facing every day so that they can have a different perspective and share share some guidance with you.
Absolutely. And call you on your BS sometimes because they'll see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
True. Very true.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. So, I always like to close with the question, what is your number one tip for a business dad?
Number one tip for a business dad? That's a great question. Number one tip for a business dad. If I could only give you one tip, and this would be the same tip I'd give my kids to life, is like lean into your faith.
Oh, I love that.
One of the things that I've gotten from just listening to a podcast like this, it's been a year or two now, was I heard somebody say, just take your kids to church every Sunday, not because it's church and all that, but to show them that this is a habit, that this is a staple in their lives, because when they move out of the home, who's going to be the one providing the guidance, and you really want to instill the importance of having faith and being able to look to the Bible for advice and looking to other Christian men and other Christian dads for advice and direction. So I'd say faith.
I love that. And it's like you were eavesdropping on my last interview. I got to mention it. So everybody, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, go back and listen to that with my pastor, Pastor Ryan Taylor. But one of the things we were talking about, and of course you can go listen to it, but it was, I asked him, as someone who wants to lead my family in faith, when you're sitting there, it's like, I'm watching the kids, I'm telling them to be quiet, whatever. So I felt like I was missing out on the message. I'm like, why? If I'm not getting anything out of it, they're not getting anything out of it. What? And he said, and it's something I needed to hear. So again, I would recommend everybody going back to listen to this one, but he said, Dustin, your job right now is not to listen to my message. Your job is to be the example for your kids and bring them to church. So I swear it's like you eavesdropped on that, and it's already been released. So that's so awesome. Cool. Yeah, that is awesome. Cool. So how can people find you if they wanted to get a hold of you, Dave?
Yeah. So on social media, I'm at Agent David O. Send me a message. I read and respond to those.
Awesome.
Love to connect with you.
Awesome. Well, guys, remember, we have this conversation going on with our free Facebook group at The Balanced Business Dad. You can join that. You can go straight up to dadupgroup.com. Join the group there. There's also a free training I put on there on the DADUP framework. And besides that, guys, just go ahead and dad up, because the people who love you the most deserve it the most. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.